Greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Dale Barzi. As always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey. Today, I have the very great pleasure of welcoming Courtney Mansbridge out of Alberta, Canada. Courtney is a nurse, of course. She's an educator. She is an entrepreneur. She is the founder of the Blooming Mind. She's the founder of Nurses for Change. She's a co-founder of Compathia. She's a creator of the Weekly Inclusion Prompt, which is a newsletter. And Courtney says that her work bridges the gap between clinical excellence and human connection. And that proves that communication is not a soft skill, but it's a life skill. And she says that through speaking, technology, and community building, she is working to ensure that every healthcare professional has the tools they need to provide compassionate, inclusive care. Now, Courtney, that's a huge goal. That's a huge goal. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
And to correct, it's called the Blossoming Mind Incorporated.
Oh, what did I call it? The Blooming
The
Mind?
Blooming Mind,
You're,
yes.
thank
Which
you
is
for
fine. It's
correcting me. That's what
close
I
enough.
wrote, you know.
It's
That's
fine. It's fine. But
yeah.
yes, yeah, it is a lot. And I'm trying to figure out where, and it's funny, even when you first explained who I am and said like entrepreneur, I'm like, oh right, I guess I have to like embrace that
Yeah.
label now. Weird. Such a different
But
mindset.
tell me first of all why you're a nurse. What brought you here?
Oh, what brought me to nursing? Funny enough, I never thought I was going to be a nurse. I wanted to be a doctor. Um, I watched the show ER when I was younger, and which is like the Grey's Anatomy of today. And I wanted to be a doctor, but at the time I was 18, and I'm like, I can't go to school for 10 years. That's ridiculous. Like, because when you're that young, you can't see that far into the future, right? You know,
Exactly.
as an adult now, I'm like, sure, 10 years is not like world ending. But
But
yeah,
you had
so
already been in school for how many years? Yes. So, another
exactly,
10. Mhm.
right? So instead, I thought, you know what? I love science and I really want to be in the healthcare profession. Like, I still want to be able to help people. And so I looked into other options, and nursing just kind of fell in that category. And I thought, you know what? No, this is a good, let's just try this out. And I did. And I went through, I think it was 3 years before I failed a clinical rotation. And it was kind of like, oh, do I really
Mm.
want to do this? Like, ugh, this is because unfortunately in society, and I mean, how I was raised is like like failure is bad. It's horrible, right? Which is
I get you.
not the case, not the case at all. But at the time, I was still in my early 20s and I thought, oh, I'm doomed. Like, I can't be a nurse. And so then I had to question a bunch of stuff. And honestly, thankfully, I had a mentor. I ended up in my mental health rotation and I had a mentor that kind of took me under his wing. And it's really the reason I'm still a nurse today because well, him and other people supporting me, but he was the one that kind of helped me see like, okay, I'm capable. I can do this. I just need to find the right area that I actually enjoyed, which
Yeah.
helped me. And I
Yeah.
realized that I am not a hospital nurse. I never have been, and I haven't to this day. I've never worked in the hospital. And so that's the reason I'm also probably still a nurse today.
And hallelujah, because you know what? When I say that to people, that you never ever have to set foot in a hospital if you don't want to.
Yep.
People, particularly people who are non-nurses, give me this look like, what are you talking about?
Correct.
And
That's
yes, you
because of
can.
the thought process we have, right? I've been a
Mhm.
nurse for 14 years and I've never stepped foot in a hospital. And
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah, yeah, and you're doing a good job at it.
I think so.
But having decided to go to nursing school as a second um a second choice,
Yeah.
how did it challenge you?
Um, like nursing school as a whole, like how did it challenge me?
Yeah, and becoming a nurse himself.
Um, oh, how did it challenge me? Well, As a whole, I didn't really know, like a lot of people when I was in school, and I'm sure even still today, they go into profession because they know people or they've had family or
Yes.
whatever. I did not. I didn't have my parents, my mom didn't go to school at all. My dad is an electrician. And so I didn't really have that experience. And I family is a nurse or a medical at all. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm just going to jump into this and see what happens. And so, I for sure was challenged in ways in school. I mean, nursing school is not easy. I'm sure any nurse can attest to that. But at the same time, I enjoyed the things that I was doing. I really realized early on, as I was having these clinical rotations and not really loving what I was doing, like, maybe this isn't the right fit for me. And so that's why so it was addictions, mental health, when I finally found, like, okay, I can do this. I actually think that I'm capable of this. Yeah. And that's kind of how it challenged me. Definitely weeded me to where I need to be.
Okay then. Okay then. So you've never worked in a hospital. Where have you worked?
Community. I've worked in home care and addictions and mental health.
Awesome. Awesome. Are you know, okay, I'm going to ask you this one first. What do you think you'd like to see change about nursing, nursing life, nursing education? Any one thing. I know we can go on about that for a
I was going
long
to say
time.
it's such a loaded question. Oh, okay. To be honest, if I were to base it off of what I am doing in life as of right now, I want nursing to be more inclusive. And the way that I see that is, like, I want nurses who are leaders, nurses who are management, nurses who are on the floor. I don't care where you are. I want them to understand that we are all human beings and we all deserve respect, support, to feel like we are capable of doing the job, just to be inclusive of each other. No matter what you have going on for you. For example, I got diagnosed with ADHD last year. Okay, so falling in the realm of neurodivergence, I have differences, but those differences are amazing. And I finally started to come into that. And that inclusion idea of, okay, so me, what are my powers? What are the skills that I do the best? Hone in on those and you'll see phenomenal things from me. But focus on the things that I don't do great or the things that are challenging, then it's not going to go well. And then that leads to bullying and burnout and retention issues. And so that's where my brain goes of, like, how nursing needs to change.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I couldn't have said that better myself, actually. Couldn't have said it better. So you just mentioned burnout, and I saw that in you say you talk about fixing burnout by fixing culture.
Yeah,
Um,
in a way, yes.
okay, so is how receptive are institutions and individuals to that idea that we can fix the culture?
Well, so I haven't had a client as of thus far with that business. However, having the conversations regardless
Mhm.
with people, I think that, if you talk to a nurses for the most part are like, yeah, I want this, and this, and I would do those things. However, when it comes down to what's actually happening in the world or in the culture, healthcare as a whole is extremely slow to move on to those things. They're slow to pick up on being inclusive, even. They're slow to flexibility, as an example, right? I can't tell you how many people I've talked to where they have to work 12-hour shifts. That is not flexibility. That is not inclusive. That is not trying to build this culture of support. That is being like, you have to work a 12-hour shift because that's what it is. Except that, you've got a family or you're taking care of a loved one, you're taking care of a parent, you're taking, like, all these. This is not how our world is. This is never how our world is. And this is how the world is. We've all had to fit in this box, but
Yeah.
the box is starting to break. And I think that more and more people I mean, I don't remember the stats as of, like, right now, but earlier this year, I looked at stats and it was like within the first 3 years, 50% of the population of
Yeah,
nurses are leaving. Like,
are leaving.
that's ridiculous. 3 years. Like, so what is the reasonings, right? Well, I can tell you right now, being flexible is one of the reasons. So, anyways, that's kind of where my brain goes with
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, yeah, I get it, and it's really sad, and we really need to stop and take stock of that statistic, because I think you're correct. It is that was what the statistic was very recently, and to think that people are leaving in a shorter time than it took them to complete nursing school
Yep. Yep.
with the
That's
debt.
insane. Yeah.
With all of that they put into it, just forget even the money, the energy, the time, the whatever that you have put into it, the hope, the persistence, and all of that. And you get to a place within 3 years where you think, I can't do this.
Right.
It's really very sad. It's really very sad. And it means that we have not adequately communicated the many, many opportunities there are in nursing. The fact that nursing is not a one size fits all thing, and that there is a place within this vast profession for every single person who ever stepped into nursing school.
Agreed. Agreed. And I personally did not realize that truly until honestly, I got onto LinkedIn and I started to meet nurses in all these different professions. And my mind has been open, obviously, because like I said, I've never worked in the hospital. So I knew there was different options, but even I felt pigeonholed into like, I can only be a nurse if the title is nurse. I can only be a nurse in X so many capacities. But then I realized it's like you could literally do anything.
Limitless. It's
Yeah.
limitless. And like you, I have for me it was a 50-year career. I was
Yeah.
very, very far along into that career before I realized um there was so many other things I could do.
Yeah.
Uh it was like, wait 1 minute. Because when I entered nursing school, and people said, oh, that's good. You can get a job anywhere. And yes, I got that. But what
Yeah.
they meant was you can get a job anywhere in an institution.
Correct. Correct.
That's what
Which
they
is not the case. And that's the thing. And, when I speak about it to students, like I have that conversation and it's interesting. Whenever I tell them, like, I've never worked in the hospital as a nurse, honestly, the reactions I get from them are like, what? How is that even possible? And I'm like, this is the problem right here. The fact that you're questioning me, that like the fact that that's your response to me tells me that we're not doing a good job to explain
Yeah,
to you all the options.
yeah,
Like, you don't even have to work as a nurse in the title of a nurse. Like, that's how many options we have. And even being an entrepreneur, never did I, one, I never thought I would ever be one. And two, I didn't even realize as a nurse you could, because of the way that pay is kind of considered for nursing, right? Like,
yeah,
especially with benefits, at least where I am, I'm sure kind of where
yeah,
you are too, but like, you see a physio, an occupational therapist, a dietitian, all these other professions, they can have their own practices and get charged, like benefits will pay for them. As a nurse,
yes.
unless you're going to the home and doing like nurse specific
Yeah,
tasks,
yeah,
like a wound,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you don't have that option. And
yeah.
so it's not to say that people won't pay, but if people don't have the money to pay, then how do you start a business, right? And I've learned from that. But yeah, that's where my brain went.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So I want to ask you about these businesses that you have. First of all, the Blossoming Mind. What,
Yes.
what's that about?
So that business, which I still, I love everything about it. Just as a parent of a 6 and 3-year-old and working full time and all this stuff, it's just a pause. But that business is around inclusion, which is why I suggested that of what nursing can do
Mm,
better. And so that is where I do consulting, I do speaking surrounding inclusion and just bringing about and honestly using the nursing process to go and see a business to say, hey, this is your problem. Let's go through literally every step of the nursing process to try and find a solution for you. So that's where that went.
Have you found, as you're mentioning it, because I have started to call it that actually, the nursing process is actually a business process.
Seriously, it is.
I started to call it that because you know what? I didn't even realize that, but that's what you bring. This is how you look at stuff, and this is how it works. It works that same way in your mind.
Like literally, there's not a single thing that I can think of that can't use that process. When it comes to human interaction, you can use it for selling. You can use it for this. You can use it for obviously the patient interaction. You can use it for with students. Like you can literally use it for everything because when you
For
think
life.
about it, right, it's true when you think about it, and it's one of the skills that we have ingrained in us, which is amazing. But we just really need to start taking it and thinking about it. How do you implement it into all the things that you do?
Yeah. We shrink it down into such a small box, but it's a huge
Yes,
thing. It's a huge
correct,
thing.
correct.
And so I want to talk to you about Compathia. That's
Yes.
another thing you co-founded. And I see that you're talking about, I'm asking people what they see nursing looking like in about 10 years or so. And this
Mm.
company that you co-founded, Compathia, talks about AI and all of this kind of thing. So talk to me. What is Compathia?
Well, so the idea surrounding this as a whole was that as an instructor teaching a mental health course, the challenges that I saw with students of empathy, with communication, with assessments, especially when they're almost done their program, I thought, how is this happening? Like, how are we here? And
Yeah.
I was using a program. It was last year. I tried out a program in my class, and it was a similar idea to this, like to Compathia, of they were talking with an agent, and so they weren't typing. They were talking like you and I, having a conversation with this agent, and I thought this is like life changing for us, to be able to teach those skills that are so hard to teach.
Yeah.
And I talked to the person that kind of developed it, and they decided to go with law enforcement. And so I thought, well, there has got to be a way that I can figure this out. And so I started to think about it. And then I met Timmy Abiola, who's another nurse where I am, like in Alberta. And his background is informatics and AI and mental health, ironically enough. And I was like, hey, so do you want to like do this? Do you want to do this with me? And so I have had the idea. He has been the one that's kind of put it all together into a program. And so what we've come up with is this name of, communication, empathy, and this AI trainer that can help with those skills. And so we've built 2 agents. We call them personas, actually. We've decided persona. We've built 2 of them. One is around kind of that mental health piece of like doing a mental status exam, risk assessment, like those kinds of aspects. And then the other one right now is that empathy, active listening, communication kind of person. But the idea is to continue to expand and keep building. We want to build one around suicide. We want to build one around de-escalation, like those challenging scenarios that really, until a nurse comes into contact with them, they really don't have the ability to deal with it.
Yeah. So I'm beginning to see a huge vision for this thing.
Yeah.
That's
That's
another
my goal.
thing that looks limitless to me. You can use this compassion thing like
Yes. That is my thoughts, truly. Like, when I really started to think about it, I mean, first I obviously I started to think about it, implementing it into schools. But in reality, it can be implemented into
yeah,
hospitals, facilities with nurses already doing this, new nurses, seasoned nurses, whoever, to work through and continue to upgrade their skills.
yeah,
And then even then, we've talked about the public, right? The
yes,
public being able to speak to an agent like this and learning how, if they're a family member, a friend is suicidal, how do they speak to them? If
yes,
they're having a hard time because they've got mental health challenges. How do you speak to somebody with a mental health or cognitive challenge, right? If they've got dementia. So
Yeah.
it truly is limitless. Like when you think about it. So yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see where we can go with this. There are other companies doing it, so don't get me wrong. But at the same time, something that somebody told me was that, is there only one car company? No,
Exactly.
there's how many car companies, right? And that really just got my brain to think, okay, it is not the product specifically, it's bigger than the product.
Yes, it is.
What does the product add? Who are the people behind the product, right? And so we're both nurses. We're both trying to show that nurses are capable of this stuff. And we know, because we're nurses, we know what nurses need. So I'm hoping. I feel like the more that we can kind of keep getting into it, and like we just kind of launched utilizing the modules, I shouldn't say modules, but the personas to test out. So we got almost 30 people interested out of our network to test it out. And then at the end of this month, we're SunCL, the international nursing kind of group. They're in Calgary. And so we're have an abstract that got approved to speak there about Compathia. So I'm excited.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Every time, I come across what nurses are doing, I am truly just blown away. I'm so thankful that I'm still around to see what nurses are doing, really.
And I love it. I love that you're doing this for nurses, because it's, you say that, and I agree with you because I have seen it. But again, how many nurses in our profession, with how big we are, really truly realize what we're capable of and what we are trying to do to change things? I can tell you right now, a fraction of us realize what we're doing. And that's why I love these types of, scenarios, podcasts, whatever, summits, all these things, because it can show what nurses are capable of doing.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have one last question, Courtney. It's kind of like two-part question. One, I want to know what self-care means to you, and what do you do to take care of you?
Oh, okay. Self-care. Yeah. Things that I've had to learn over my lifetime. And I say this because I have gone through burnout myself. I was totally the statistic of burnout within that first X so many years of being a nurse. And so, and part of that was because I got bullied. And so that self-care piece really had to come into play. And so, what I do is I work out. That's a huge piece of my brain health and my physical health. But I also honestly, and it's going to sound really weird, but finding the passion in this profession again is my self-care. And so even though, starting a business is a ton of work, it is obviously, but I love, and it keeps driving me to keep going in this profession, because it's like, I get to find out all this information. I get to talk to people. I get to network. I get to do all these things. So that actually, ironically, is partial of my self-care, is to keep doing these things. And honestly, another piece is just to talk to other people, like-minded people that actually get it. So being able to have conversations like this, being able to, find others that are on the same wavelength as me, right? That realize that the profession is a disaster, but that a few of us, are trying to make things better, and love to talk about being inclusive, or love to talk about talking about Compathia, and not necessarily Compathia, but those types of things. So that's kind of how I do self-care. I mean, I also could throw in there that I try to do breathing exercises and that kind of stuff. But, sometimes it happens, but it's something I still do try to do. I try to do with my kids so that I, keep it up. But that's kind of how I take care of myself.
Yeah.
Not fitness by any means, but it's a try, right?
It's a try. And you know what? I ask it of everyone, Courtney, only because I know that we are, as a group and individually, we kind of tend to be, we need to catch up. We need to catch up with that.
110%. Another thing that I throw out in class to my students, because it's like, what are you all doing? And I actually individually ask almost all of them, what are you doing tell me something you can do. And I provide ideas in class to help give ideas of like, hey, this is something you can try. It's easy. Try it when you're driving, try it at any point.
Yeah.
It's something just to
So,
help, because
yeah.
I'm telling you, burnout is real. And I'm not trying to scare you from the profession. I'm just trying to be honest of what you need to do to ensure that you stay, of sound mind.
Yeah. 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 Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because very soon after they leave school and start
Yep.
working, they will get into situations where it is, or maybe I shouldn't say this as an overall thing, but sometimes they'll get into situations where it is the accepted thing to not take care of you. It is the accepted thing to not go to lunch. It is the accepted thing to not go to the, and you get patted on the back for being a good nurse because you came in over time and you stayed late and you came.
Oh,
I'm
and
so over
the
that.
sad reality is, I agree with you. Me too. The sad reality, though, is I have spoken to a few of my previous students, like since they've become a nurse, and actually almost all of them have had one of those types of situations where they've not taken their breaks, where they've gotten bullied, where they're not taken seriously, where, like all of them, sadly. And it's like, no wonder why the statistic is there. It's only getting worse as time goes on. Like, yeah. So, yeah, you're preaching to the choir for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sadly, sadly.
Well, you know what, Courtney, this is why we talk. This is why we connect and we talk and we put it. And I honestly believe, I know words have power.
Oh,
So the
yeah.
more we talk about these things, the more it gathers momentum and the more, we are able to make changes, however small, they will all add up. They will all add up.
If our voice stays silent, well, then nothing changes. And so the more that we keep talking, even like you said, even if it's small,
Yeah,
things will change. And you can
yeah,
see the needle move a slight amount even
yeah,
now when you see the
yeah,
amount of nurses that are trying. But yeah, the more that we listen to each other and the more that we realize our powers, like
yeah.
we will do better.
We will do better. We have to. We will do better. It has to. It has to. It has to happen. As long
Yeah.
as we don't stay silent, because silence is consent.
Oh,
So
100%. 100%. And that's the thing to keep teaching, whether it's in school, whether you're, working in the field, keep teaching the nurses that are coming out that you cannot stay silent. Keep reiterating to them that you have to speak up. You can do it in a way that doesn't like get you shot down, but you still
right.
got to speak up. You can't,
Yeah.
you can't. Then what I will say is this, the new generation, and I don't necessarily mean like nurses that are getting into the profession at an age of like they have a family or they've had this is their second career aren't necessarily there always, but nurses that are like new, like young, as in
You.
early 20s, that generation is starting to show that power and starting to say like, no, I'm not doing this. And so my
And I love
hope
it.
is that if they stay in the profession and they actually get listened to, then things will keep changing, hopefully. That or they're just going to leave because they're not going to get listened to. So, either way.
We're gonna turn things on its head. I'm
Right?
sure.
Something will happen.
Courtney, thank you so very, very much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I truly
Yes.
appreciate it. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. It was awesome.
Great. Have a good one.
You too.